there has been a big dhamaka in the women's space. I'm not talking about any negative aspects. I'm talking about the big, big bang. The book. It is Sheryll Sandburg's Lean In, Women, Work and Will to Lead. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Actually, the reaction to it from women has been extremely, negative, mixed. Negative and positive. Some think, yeah, what she says is right. Frankly, I think what she says is right. I've been working for the last 30 years and I have seen many ups and downs kind of in a woman's career, especially when she's reaching the top. Maybe things have changed now, but they definitely were what Sheryll is talking about. A couple of years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I started working 30 years ago, maybe it made a lot more sense. It should change now, but I'm surprised to read Sandburg's book, which says, no, it hasn't changed. She puts the blame squarely on women. You are not going up because you are not taking the flight. You are not climbing the steps. Ha ha ha. I agree with you, Sheryll. I agree with you 100%. But when you're climbing steps, especially when they are steep and you have to climb high, you need a railing to support you on either side, isn't it? Oh, men don't need it? Yeah, men don't need it because they're made of brawn, okay? They are typical ha ha ha, they walk up. We women are more delicate. We also wear heels. We have to balance ourselves. Okay, and we have to be dainty and delicate like women. Okay, the world expects us to be that too also. Anyway, there are a lot more things to discuss. So I thought in this episode, we will discuss Sandburg's book. My first guest is Meera Sridhar, who is a chartered accountant in a large IT company. Let her tell us herself about what she is doing. Okay, Meera, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell me a little about yourself, Meera.
Okay. So, as you just mentioned, I'm not a software engineer working for an IT company. I'm a finance person.
Okay.
And if that makes it any much more exciting, so I'm a finance person working, and I've been in the industry for about 10 plus years.
Okay.
And I'm excited to be here.
Just give me a recap, Meera, from your little bit of why did you choose finance? Now, you said 10 years ago, okay? 10 years ago, women didn't really go into finance as many, isn't it? What made you do that? Do you have anybody in the family who's doing things like that, or was it your own choice?
The stereotypes are there, and at that time, most people wanted to either choose medicine or become an engineer, and that was the chosen profession during those days. Of course, now we have so many other avenues and so many new things opening up. But finance was something which I always wanted to do, and even though I was supposed to be a good student at that time, finance and taking up commerce was not really the done thing at that time.
Yeah, it wasn't fashionable.
It was not fashionable, yeah. So, but I think my parents were supportive. They left the choice to me, and here I am.
Okay, so then what happened after that? How did you get into, when you say finance, I'd like you to explain it a little more,
so in terms of profession, I'm a basic, chartered accountant, and I've worked with, a couple of companies, both Indian and MNC, and I have been in the, finance support function. So it's always been very challenging to support the business, to ensure that we have proper compliances, to ensure that we do the right thing at all times.
Okay, that's what a CA does.
Yes. Okay. Especially if you're working for a corporate, that's the charter for working as you're basically you're the conscience keeper.
Oh, I always thought conscience was only for employees. Let's hear more about it.
So here, since you're working for the corporation, you're looked to, to kind of provide the tone, provide the guidance, ensure that everything is compliant. So that's where we play a key role.
Okay, which means you need to be very well up on the new tax rules, the new
Definitely.
company rules.
Definitely. It's all about the recent regulations, ensuring that we're doing the right thing in terms of compliances, ensuring that our internal policies are consistent. So that's very important. Your bottom line can keep going up, but unless you are ethical and compliant, that's the most important part of being a finance professional in a corporation.
So you said you're like the conscience keeper, and you use the word ethical also.
Yeah.
So a chartered accountant is really the watchdog.
Yes.
That you're doing things the right way.
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just the bottom line is not enough.
Yeah.
Getting a lot of money.
Yeah.
Where did it come from?
Yes.
Where did it not go where it should go?
True.
Where is it going where it should not go? Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it a kind of a heavy pressure job? Like suppose you were an IT professional. They have very long hours to work and things like that. Does your role as a chartered accountant also call for this kind of erratic timings?
I think any professional, whether IT or whether you're in a kind of a medical profession, any professional, once you're kind of getting into that profession, you need to go all out, and you need to kind of spend in the hours required. The quality of the job will also depend on how much time you spend and how much energies you're putting in. So I wouldn't say that this profession or the IT professional, every profession has its challenges, and I think work and the amount of hours you're putting in is totally dependent on what you want out of it. Yeah.
Okay. Now in many jobs, as you go up on the ladder, okay, generally it is perceived that it takes more than meritocracy to go up. Okay.
Yeah.
It takes other kind of cumulative skills or whatever it is. In the finance sector, like a chartered accountant, do those things count or just meritocracy?
As I said, we are not different from any other, profession or any other line. It does take a whole bunch of things: meritocracy, your personal charisma. There are lots of things which go in. So I wouldn't say we're very different from the others, but yeah, meritocracy and the X factor will help you go up.
How has it been for you? You said you worked with private, smaller companies or private companies and MNCs. Is there a difference in the work culture between the two?
Yeah, the work culture is kind of constantly evolving, I would say.
In the last 10 years? Okay.
Yes.
What is a significant evolution?
I think what we've seen over a period of time is that, there has been a lot more focus on, I would say, ensuring that we have more representation of women as in the different chains of management. Also, they're trying to make it much more friendlier in terms of ensuring that, there are good policies in place, there are good support structures in place. So that's all definitely a good plus. We are seeing constant changes, and of course, we still need to see a lot more. But there's definitely a lot of improvement in the years.
So what you're saying is the evolution of the woman from the chapati rolling person to taking up different kinds of roles in big and small companies. The same way, even companies are evolving.
Yes.
Keeping in mind the particular needs of women going up. Because you do agree that though we talk about equality between men and women and things like that, there are certain biologically dictated needs of women.
For sure.
Definitely need.
So there is, as I said, it has been evolving. There's definitely much more awareness now. It was not something which you kind of talk in hush-hush tones and say, okay, this is something which she requires. These are more, we're seeing more of awareness in terms of, more policies coming up, more guidelines coming up, making it more uniform in the way in which, these things are being structured, handled. So I think in terms of awareness, in terms of how this is being dealt with, it is being more, in terms of uniformity, in terms of equality, all that is, it's definitely improved.
Okay. Do you, as a chartered accountant who is like the conscience keeper of the company or something, do you also contribute? I'm not saying you as Meera Sridhar, but as chartered accountants, do you also contribute suggestions and ideas for these policies to be more family-friendly, women-friendly?
Yes, finance normally does play a role. We do play a role in terms of, forming the policies and, getting our voice heard. But, we definitely have a say when it comes to important policies.
Do you think of, or can you relate any policy of late in the last 10 years which you think is very enlightened towards the betterment of, women employees?
Very often we see that we are asked for our input in terms of, okay, are these policies conducive? Can we go ahead? Sometimes you might need additional, budgets and sanctions to kind of make these things work. So in those circumstances, we do come in and play a role in terms of ensuring that we have, better
Okay,
policies.
so what you're saying is the policies are not crafted by you.
Yeah.
They come from HR or
Yes.
different, okay? But they come and check it out with you, whether the company can afford those policies or
Yeah.
what kind of logistic it needs and whether you think it is
Yeah.
commercially viable for the company,
True,
etc.
true.
Okay. So you work hand in hand with
Yes.
the other departments. Do they feel threatened? Do other people... I'm not talking again about your particular company. A company. Does it feel threatened? Because normally finance is like the big brother who's watching.
Yes.
Okay. So do the other departments feel threatened about their policies being shelved because of financial requirements or not?
Well, I would say that, again, this is a generic, not, specific to any company. I would say more and more the finance function is becoming a partner. We are becoming partners in, in the business, in the day-to-day working of the organization. So I think of late we're seeing more as, business partners than anybody, you would think of as, threatening or, discouraging, I would say.
Yeah, that's very enlightening.
Yeah.
Meera, I'm going to quote from this book. Sandburg's book, okay? She says, too many women are being overlooked for promotions due to lack of confidence and poor negotiation skills and not because of lack of opportunity. That means women do have opportunities, but they are being overlooked for promotions or due to lack of confidence. So don't you think women do push away the opportunities? What do you say? This is it's your personal take on it, okay? You're not representing in, the company's.
Sure.
Okay, it's purely Meera talking to me.
I think when opportunities come knocking, it's really important that you don't sidestep it and you optimize on it and take advantage of it. There are times when opportunities come and it's not the right time, the right place, but you'll have to look at the big picture and say, okay, what is it that I'm going to learn from this, even if I fail? Taking that risk and taking that that chance at something bigger, that's very important. The final outcome might be different, but just taking that opportunity, taking advantage of the opportunity, and trying to get as much of mentorship or as much of coaching which you can get from your trusted folks. That's very important.
Okay.
So there will be challenges along the way. There will be those times when you feel that you're not up to the challenge, but it's always better to kind of try it out than not even look at it and give up something which you haven't even got a chance to do.
So in the last 10 years, have you found any such thing in your own professional life where you saw an opportunity, either you waved it away or you leaned in towards it?
Well, I would say that for me, this is more of a personal thing that, I've always had a kind of a very supportive structure at home and, supportive environment where I haven't really need to kind of bypass or, ignore any opportunity which has come up. But also it's happened that, I've got some good mentorship. I've had some good coaches along the way who kind of always, put in that trust and, put in the faith in me to kind of ensure that, they have, given that right opportunity and as well as supported me. So,
don't you think men also need all these things?
Of course, this is not something typical to women.
Gender bias. It's not gender based.
Definitely, it's definitely not something gender related. None of this is gender specific. In fact, I would say that it could apply to anybody. And again, I've seen it commonly both among men and women who've had the same apprehensions, who've seen the same kind of challenges. We would would I like to take this on? Is this something which I'd like to do? Things like that. So it's definitely not gender specific.
Do you think men don't need it so much? Or do men also wave away opportunities with other things taking priorities? Or is it only women? So, Meera, what do you say?
Well, yeah, in terms of opportunities, it comes knocking for both men and women, I would say. But the way we handle it, I do see, you're right, I do see many times, women contemplating a lot, balancing it out in their minds, trying to say, okay, is this something which, I would be able to manage? I am at this stage in my family, I have kids, I have, parents to support, in-laws to support, my husband. So the lots of things which, goes on in their mind, right, while they take on, while they're contemplating many of these opportunities. For men, I would say it's a tad easier. It is, a little bit easy because, the way we are structured culturally, we have seen that, men are typically, the guys who go out, they have the mantle to kind of shoulder the family on their, shoulders. So they definitely are the ones who will go all out, take up those opportunities, move to a different country, do all it takes to get on to that next levels. But I do see that very often for women, it's a kind of a balancing act. They definitely have to process this a lot more before taking on the decision. Yeah.
And I'm very happy that Sandburg says in her book, give 50% of your parenthood to the husband. So you see, sometimes I think men, due to lack of awareness, because it's the stereotype thing that women will stay and take care of their mother-in-law, they will wave away the opportunity for the children.
Yeah, I guess that's what happens when we are so much in terms of stereotypes. We are so conditioned to think in a certain way that I think, in spite of making a lot of progression in that area, we do see a lot of stereotypes. I wouldn't say gender bias, but I would say stereotypes in this case.
Okay.
And that's where the challenge lies, right? That's where the challenge is in terms of can the woman, not bother about all the responsibilities she's shouldering and just go ahead. That's where the dilemma is, I would say.
And the other point that Sandburg makes here is about fear, that women fear that they may not be liked. They may be ostracized, socially ostracized, or the family may not like what they're doing. See, women are constantly in fear. Do you agree with that?
To a certain extent, yes. But as I said, I think things are changing. We are, becoming definitely more aware. I do see a lot of women achieving, going to the greatest of heights. So that definitely is changing for the better. And finally, it also boils down to, the meritocracy part, all things being equal, how is this person being able to, go to the next level or reach the next, take up the next position. So, yes, there definitely needs more, improvement, but we've seen a lot of changes over the past couple of years.
Yeah, it can't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Centuries of whatever
Yes.
we've been doing, we have to unlearn all that and do it again. And another thing, I mean, it's not in the book, or maybe it's in the book, I haven't read the complete book, but my take on it is that I think if women had more mobility, it would help, because the fact that you're willing to up and go wherever the company wants you to go does really help you a lot. And it's so much more difficult for women to do that. What do you say?
Yeah, for sure. I've seen very often that, some of my colleagues moving to a different geography and their whole family following them. It is definitely a change for them, but I would say that they don't really have to weigh in the possibilities of, okay, will my family be okay? Can I shift? Is the school different? All that stuff. They take the decision, and the family supports them right through and goes with it. But for women, it's slightly different, I would say, because sometimes, very often, they'll have to kind of have that trade-off. Say, okay, do they move by themselves? Can they leave the family? Can the spouse also move? Those are the challenges which are definitely posing for women.
And when you say the spouse also moves, suppose the man is sent to another geographical location and the wife moves with him, and even if she doesn't get a job there, it's okay. But other way around,
Yeah.
it may not be that okay.
True.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So to a large extent, don't you think that men also have to evolve in these things? It should be okay for them also not to have a job, be a house husband while she... What do you say about that?
I think, that's an interesting, question, and that's an interesting thought, I would say. But really, it depends upon the equation, right? At the end of the day, it depends upon the equation between the two spouses. Very often, I mean, I would be surprised that I have seen a couple of cases where the male in the family has been willing to kind of do all the supporting and the shouldering, and it sort of depends on what stage of life you're in, right?
Yes.
It depends on what stage you are in, whether if you have small kids, what is the trade-off you want to make? Whereas, if you're, you're much, more senior and you don't have that much of responsibility, what is the trade-off you want to make? So all those factors play. So there's no right or wrong, I would say, in this, but it is definitely circumstantial and also very dependent on what kind of equation you have between the two spouses.
Individual, depends on each individual. Because right in the beginning earlier, you told me about how it's been different for you because of your support systems. Now that you can do a lot if you have a support system. And what according to you would be a support system? Generally, not talking only about yours, but for a woman to be able to move up, what do you think would be?
Well, the basic support system starts from within, right? And then you also go on to what the corporation can provide in terms of a support system. So for the individual, it would start off with, say, what kind of a family support you have, the spouse, or the extra help you can get in terms of, getting that additional help to help you do your, daily chores at work, at home, and things like that. But beyond that, it would also be in terms of, what kind of support the corporation is willing to give you in terms of, commuting.
But now Yahoo, I believe, has taken off telecommuting. Is this going to be a trend or something?
I guess that's a big debate going on these days. But most corporations these days, provide that, and there is the other benefits in terms of you do get a weekend off, which is totally your time. So that's a time when you can spend with your family and things like that. And also there are the benefits in terms of leaves and all the other things which corporations these days are doing in terms of getting it providing more support. So
there was this one company which had maternity leave, like all companies have, and when the person came back, and CRR or something, I'm not too familiar with it, but whatever, it was little low. So she was telling me that I went on maternity leave and my CRR has been affected by that. Does it happen, or is it because of your performance? You could come back and bounce back or whatever it is. But when I did ask a senior person from the company, but why don't you, like a handicapper in the golf? You have a handicap, so why don't you extend that? He said, maternity leave is not leave.
No. Well,
it's part of your, it's a paid leave. Which means you're still in service at that time. And your performance at that time is counted. It's like an appraisal. And that time you didn't work. You got paid. You didn't work. So as a chartered accountant, what would you say about it? The finance part of it.
I would say, again, there's nothing specific, I would say, with regard to finance in terms of, such things. But what we've seen often is that, people are not extremely penalized for, their performance during their time off. Things are taken, considering that, this is something which happens in, a person's life. So I would say that, taking a mature stand on this would definitely help.
The employer.
Yeah, and the employer.
Taking a mature stand. And another thing that Sandburg says, that for a woman, it's more like a jungle gym than a ladder. For a man, he just climbs the ladder. So you see, she's really multitasking all the time. Now, this is where I would like to bring what again Sandburg says about give 50% of the parenthood to you. So that would be a great support system, don't you say so?
Well, yes. we are in those days, we are in those fortunate times where, as I said, there is a lot of awareness. I see very often the male also taking a lot of responsibility these days. I've seen many men attending parent-teacher meetings, being at sports days. It's really encouraging to see that kind of participation. So it is improving. But it would definitely help. It's definitely the best support you can ask for if the male also is taking that 50%, I would say.
But another thing that women do is sidestep their own career if they think the husband's career has a longer stretch than their own. Do you think, what is your personal opinion about it?
Yes and no. Yeah, it is a reality. I would say people, we should admit that, once, I've seen cases including some of the people I know, once they see, okay, that the husband's career is on the progressive path, they do feel that, okay, now is the time when, I can concentrate and take a little bit of a, sidestep and, do something alternative, spend time with the children, and rightly so, because that's the stage in life they are. So yes, it is reality that they do kind of sidestep and prioritize the husband's career.
A very interesting statement she makes. Okay, a truly equal world would be the one where women ran half our countries and men ran half our homes. I think women would do great by running the country, but I'm not too sure about the men, how they would do running half the home. Do they have the bandwidth to do that? What do you think about it?
Yeah, or the,
I'm not asking you from your personal point. I'm just saying, when two women discussing. Okay?
Well, we have seen women running countries, so we have seen that part.
Yeah, okay. And they're as good or as bad as men.
Yeah, as anybody else.
But what about homes? Do you think men can run a home?
Well, I would be a little biased on that front. I'm not so sure whether they would be able to do that. Really, I mean, it's a lot of things, right?
Sandburg has really kicked up dust with her book, and I think it's really topical now because a lot more women are getting into very, very senior positions in companies. And recently, the Women International Networking, they had a conference in Delhi, where many of them did speak about their respective companies which are trying to facilitate women to become more boardroom oriented. Okay, men are doing a lot of things like this, but still they are also helping. They are the also-rans, but the runner is the woman.
You're right. We have not reached that stage where the tables have reversed, the roles have reversed. We have seen a few stray cases, I would say, where things had, the roles have totally reversed, but not totally. And also I think the biological fact is that women have to give birth to kids, take care of them, raise them, and things like that. So that adds to the whole complexity and the dilemma of the situation.
I think we should really blame the creator.
Yeah.
We can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
Okay, but in spite of it also, if you have a good support system, it's okay. And that biggest support system is the spouse, for the woman and for the man actually too. Because I know of many men who are distraught because they have a wife who's totally irresponsible. The kids are allowed to eat anything they want and they're, care of whatever, the domestic help or whatever, and they're going astray. And the wife is okay with it. The mom is okay with it. And so I've told the husband who comes and tells me, I said, okay, then why don't you give up your job? He said, I don't mind it, but what she earns cannot put jam and cheese on the table. We can only put bread and butter on the table. So you see, economics plays a big role in this whole thing.
Economics does play a very important role in this whole, the whole balance which we're looking for here. But I'd say, the support is not just for the female or, the one person in this relationship. It is for both. And the support is not just in terms of physical and infrastructural wise. It also is very, very emotional, right?
Okay.
The
You're bringing in a new element into this.
Yeah.
And as a chartered accountant, that's surprising.
So it is both, the emotional support and all the other kinds of, the infrastructural support that we are looking for here. So I would say it's required for both. It can't be just for one person, and it's also very situational, I would say. We've seen, you're right, very often we've seen that even, stay-home moms haven't, really, aren't really focused more, on so much on the kids as you would think they would be.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Right. So it is definitely, for both, I would say, in this situation.
In fact, I was debating with somebody the other day about do stay-home moms make better moms than working moms? Okay. And, there were a lot of exchange of fire on that. The working moms say we are better because we are more organized. What do you say? Because you're a working mom.
Yeah.
You have 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
And how old are they?
So the younger one is 6 and the elder one is going to turn 10.
And you have been working throughout?
Yes, we've been working throughout.
Okay. And your support system has been mainly how much out of 1 out of 10? How much would you give your hubby for that?
Oh, I would, give, I would be given 8
to the hubby.
Yeah,
okay, that's
support.
That's a good.
And just not him, right? It is my mother and the other support structure which I have in terms of the paid help. All that I've been really fortunate to have that. And if not for that, it would have been kind of hard. But in terms of saying that are stay-home moms better or working moms better. It is very, very individualistic. As I said, I've seen some working moms doing wonderful jobs in terms of managing both the way they program manage stuff, the scheduling. I've seen some very, very good examples. Whereas I've seen some stay-at-home moms really not prioritizing
the program.
So it is very individual. You really can't make a kind of a common judgment on who's better on this.
How does your husband, I'm now coming to your personal thing now, in what way does he extend his support? Can you just give me little examples of how he is there for you? When now I remember you're telling me last week you just went for a week's trip to the United States. You went for a week. So what happens during that week with your 2 children?
Well, they know for sure that, everything else is going to remain the same. My husband is there to kind of monitor and ensure
the routine is the same.
The routine is the same. And also, as I said, my mother and the other help which I have at home, I think over a period of time, you kind of get into a kind of a routine, standard structure, I would say, a process, I would say, where people know what their roles are when, things are a little different from the usual. So it's all about a little bit of planning. That's that.
Yeah, I want, the words that you used, Meera, are so important for whether you're a stay-home mom or you're a working mom. You used words like routine, process, and planning.
Yeah.
Isn't it? These are 3 key issues if you want to make a success of both your home and your career. When people say balancing, how do you balance work and career? I think these 3 are very important. And children somehow are more comfortable with the routine.
As I said, I've seen some very good examples, right? People who have kind of have very, very hectic schedules, traveling all the time, and both spouses being both very busy, but still having to make that time and spend some family time and, making the best of, coordinating, ensuring that, they have a planned schedule and things like that. So I've seen very good examples, and it's not impossible, but it just takes a lot of, I would say, the intent as well as the plan to kind of do that. So I did, in terms of review of this book, I did see that, somehow, somewhere, the men feel that they're a little left out of this whole discussion.
Sure, Meera, what you say is right.
Yeah.
Then she says, it's incredibly difficult to manage both career and motherhood, even before you give birth. Even the onset of motherhood,
Okay.
it's difficult to manage that and career.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. I'm sure she must be talking from her personal experiences.
Yeah, she does weave in a lot of her.
Her person.
But you know what happens is that, Meera, women want to work till almost they drive to the labor ward from the workplace, even the first child, because they want to keep all that maternity leave for the post.
Yes.
Natal, and till the last minute they are so tired, and meetings, they kind of sweat, and you know what, the men, they don't feel empathy. Just say, hey, what's she here for?
Yeah.
So I think more than anything, mindsets should change. What do you say?
Yeah.
Mindsets of the men.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot of, especially when you're, expecting a child. I've seen a lot of people say that I have worked till the last day only because I want to kind of save up
Exactly.
and, ensure that I have a lot of time to spend with the child after, giving birth. Yes, and I did see today that, there was an article saying, people were saying, should we have 1 year of maternity leave? Well, that might be taking it a bit too far, but, there are people who feel that way as well. So it is true that, there is a definite challenge even before you give birth in terms of,
Yes.
how you conduct yourself, what are your
Apart from that-
expectations. Yeah.
Apart from that, Meera, there are also physical things. It's like some women may have anemia, they may have some other, what shall I say, lack of something, vitamins or proteins or what, a lot of things, because you're nurturing another human being in your body.
Yes.
Which is sucking up all your own energies, okay?
Yes.
So those things also may affect. And it's not looked upon by your colleagues, your male colleagues, as something to, okay, it can happen, it's not her fault. But
Yeah.
they look at it like, okay, one more soft option for her. One more. So I think majorly what she should have addressed herself here. Okay, she is talking about women and their own, whatever things coming in their way. But she should have expressed a lot more concern about the male attitude towards all these things. Managers, for example. There's a lady who says, I was not given leave by my manager.
Yeah, up till now, what we've seen is that it's a standard thing. You do deliver, you have the standard 3 months of maternity leave or whatever that is, and then you kind of take, paid off and things like that. But in terms of, what happens before that, there are instances where, there are physical challenges, where, you have a certain circumstance where you need more support even before you. That part, I think, has still not come into play. We are mostly focusing on, post-childbirth. What is the...
Exactly.
The
So I thought this made a lot of sense because nobody has really touched upon before giving birth what happens. There are more women today in positions where they can do this for their junior women, but they are not doing it. I think somewhere in the book she mentions that women should facilitate other women's growth. Men can't understand this.
Yeah, which goes back to your earlier thought on the economics of the whole thing, right? If they're in a position
To do that.
then they have the choice and they have the options to do it. But if you are in that situation where you are kind of the breadwinner, you have to have that, the pay packet at the end of the month, that's when, things become difficult.
But I think Sandburg is not talking about women at that level of jobs. She's talking about women at your level of jobs. Okay. Where you are contributing to the company in a different, I wouldn't say bigger, smaller, whatever it is, at a different platform. At that platform, you've got to forget you're a mom, you've got to forget you're a wife, you've got to just remember you're a professional.
Yeah.
Is it easy?
No, it's definitely something which you can't forget. It's not something which you can switch off and switch on. There are both these things. There is an interplay. You constantly have to battle having both those worlds sometimes converging. So it's I agree with her. I mean it's not something which you can just forget and come in and do your stuff and go back. It is very important to compartmentalize, but not always easy, I would say. It's good to see, even in India, we see a lot of improvement, a lot of changes. It's good to see that we are evolving over a period of time. But yeah, I would say that, in fact, in India, I think you might be a little more luckier in terms of the support structure.
Okay.
You know,
So you think it's loaded in favor of
yeah,
women?
you know, it is a lot more, you know, in terms of, you know, you can rely on your, you know, extended family for support and things like that, whereas it might not be the case, you know, in other in developed countries. But so there is that added advantage, I would say, here. Yeah, culturally we are different. Every you know, every nation has its different culture at different times in terms of policies, in terms of, you know, what is the standard norm and things like that. So culture does play a very important role.
And the other thing about India, I don't know about other cultures, but from the book point of view and from the Indian woman vis-a-vis this book, you know, where about internal things holding you back, because we are culturally brought up like that. Girls are brought up, don't hoot your horn, don't blow your trumpet. So they kind of underplay their own achievements, because I think they value whatever they do. Women don't value what they do, Meera.
I would say yes, it is definitely there that, you know, for men it is, they go all out, you know, when it comes to, you know, talking about their achievements. But women do tend to underplay it a little bit.
In one of those conferences, there was this lady who said, men have bragging rights, women have bitching rights. I think we women should also start having bragging rights.
In terms of, you know, bragging, what I've seen is, as we were talking just a while earlier, we do see women kind of underplaying it, downplaying it in terms of, you know, talking about, you know, what they've done. But for men, it comes more naturally, I would say. Why it's so, I don't know.
I'll tell you why. Because right from their childhood, the mother is pumping up their ego. But I think women give too much bow to their male child.
That, and I would also say that for men, what happens is, you know, there is so much at stake, I would say, in terms of, you know, progression, in terms of the social status, and, you know, they see it so much more, you know, as a chance to get ahead, that that's one reason which really, really drives them in terms of, you know, you would say whatever, bragging or whatever you call it.
Yeah, okay. Maybe it's not bragging, it's more expressing. And if you don't tell the world who you are, how will the world know who you are?
True.
But if a woman does it, they think like, oh, she's showing off.
True.
When a man does it. So I think I'm boiling down, before we, you know, conclude this session, I'm boiling down to one thing, Meera, is after reading this and our discussion, that what needs to change is not so much the company's policies or whatever. What needs to change is the mindset of men towards women.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, it is, you know, it is definitely, it will definitely help and go a long way if, you know, men, and I would say totally, I mean,
Society.
even the society in large,
Yeah.
you know, adopts kind of a more, you know, diverse feeling, or, you know, the policies, the whatever we were doing today in terms of the cultural upbringing, whatever is being done, if it is done in a more supportive and a friendly, conducive way to help support, you know, the growth of women in, you know, their careers, you know, in whatever they do, that will go a long way in addressing this issue.
So this big thing right now in companies is diversity and inclusivity. I want to conclude by saying, Meera, that women are really leaders. They lead their home. They lead their children's thinking and, you know, their growth by giving them good food and, you know, helping them with their homework and things like that. And they are a great support to their husbands, because they are looking after all this. The man's entire energy is towards his work. So in a way, I would say women are leaders. They don't need designations. Motherhood itself is the greatest designation.
And it's the most important job.
Totally. Isn't it?
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll conclude this. And you said you're now dying to read the book. Okay.